Welcome back to the Noel Mine. We are here for segment 3 of our premiere episode. We now will address the state of the sports world currently in the National Football League. And right now, where truly are there more eyes than in the NFL? You're here for a start of a season that actually gets to start without the loss of any preseason games. Fans last year had to suffer through the NFL lockout. Everyone bit their nails for so long thinking, oh my gosh, we might not have a season. We might not even get a chance to see our favorite teams. But you end up getting that season underway. You get through the season. You get the Giants with yet another fourth quarter comeback against the Patriots to win the Super Bowl. And then the offseason rolls back around. You get the Saints bounty scandal, which I could go on and on about that, but there's just not enough time on the show. And we end up getting into the regular season, and we get to start off the year with the replacement referees. Now, I'll try to hit this real quick because I have a number of topics in this segment I want to talk about. But the replacement referees come out, and in the first week, they make, a couple of questionable calls here and there. But you ask most people around the league, and after just week 1, they would have said, not so bad. It could have been worse. We still want to get this done. But it did not move the NFL or the officials union to move any faster towards getting a deal done. But then you get to week 2, and all of a sudden calls start being made that are going to start affecting games. And everybody said, okay, well now it's starting to get a little ridiculous, but right now it hasn't cost anyone a game yet, so until it does, we're not really willing to change anything. And then it happened. 2 games, both primetime, on back-to-back nights, end up getting decided on a referee's official's call at the end of a game that ultimately ends up just flat out deciding the winner of the game. You first get a field goal by the Baltimore Ravens that appears to go directly over the crossbar, but it could have been questionable by, a few inches here or there. That could have been good versus no good. In the end, it's ruled good, and because it's unchallengeable, a very questionable call ends up leading the Ravens to a victory by 1 over the New England Patriots. Fast forward just 24 hours later, and you're having one of the arguably the worst calls in NFL officials' history, a Hail Mary pass by Russell Wilson of the Seahawks into the end zone. Looks like it's intercepted by Green Bay, but somehow, some way, Golden Tate, Seattle's receiver, is able to get one hand wrapped around the ball. And even though it is very clear that it is against the chest of the Green Bay defender, the referees come in, they look at each other, and then they each give a different call. And, and everybody's just in absolute turmoil. Now, at this point, they've ruled it touchdown, and when you go to review the play, they have ruled it a simultaneous catch, which, of course, is unchallengeable because that is already maintained by the referees that there was a clear possession. Therefore, even though it was very clear that the Packers player had the ball, that can't be overturned by replay, and Seattle literally steals one, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. The referees, sure enough, 3 days later, were back to work in the NFL for Sunday Night Football, and what a difference they have made. The game now is going significantly faster, and we finally have football the way we want. So we're 5 weeks into the season and approaching this weekend's games, and right now there are 2 teams undefeated left in football. My favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons, and the very surprising Houston Texans. Now, a lot of people said, hey, Steve, the Texans have always been a good team. Really? The Texans over the last 2 seasons have had arguably one of the best defenses, but if you go back before that, they had a laugh of a defense. Their defense was ranked near the bottom or at the bottom in almost every defensive category. And you also think that losing a lot of players, such as a player like a Mario Williams, to Buffalo would actually end up deflating a young Texans team. But instead, all it has done is made them stronger. It makes them better, and it now makes them a force to be reckoned with. And with us speaking about the undefeated teams, it brings me to the very first Noel power rankings. And for the first power ranking of my new show, we are going to have an opportunity to discuss the top 5 teams currently in the NFL. Now, obviously, these are completely my opinion. By no means do I expect them to completely represent your top 5. But if you agree, let me know you agree. And if you don't, tell me I missed it and tell me what you think. We start off with number 5, and I'm going to get a lot of flack, I can tell right off the bat, but I am actually going with the Minnesota Vikings. They are 4-1 and appear to be a very legit team. Percy Harvin right now could arguably be standing with a number of players for a possible dark horse for MVP this year. That you can run the ball, you can throw him the ball, he returns punts, he returns kickoff, he does everything. And this team, with Adrian Peterson back so much sooner than expected, has become a force on the ground. They also have been able to find a way to stop the run. They make their opponents one-dimensional, and when you play in a division that contains Jay Cutler, Aaron Rodgers, and Matt Stafford, you've got to be able to stop one of the facets of their game, because if you allow quarterbacks of that caliber to be able to have play action, you've got no chance. The Vikings have found a way to not just run the ball, but also stop the run. When you get one-dimensional, you are beatable, and successful teams have most certainly been built on less than that. My number 4 team is the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers currently sit at 4-1. They should be 5-0. There's honestly no excuse for the one loss they had earlier this season, but they have found a way to beat the teams that they should have beaten. And last week against Buffalo, they racked up 621 yards of total offense, and that was with them letting up towards the end of the game. This team is definitely a favorite to win the NFC this year and could very well get to the Super Bowl that a lot of people felt they should have gotten to last year. My number 3 team is the Baltimore Ravens. 4-1, an absolute model of consistency. The 3rd straight year that Baltimore has started with a 4-1 or better record. You look at a quarterback like Joe Flacco, who has been saying now for 2 seasons that I am one of the elite, I am one of the best. And now he's finally getting a chance to prove it. He's getting a chance to go on the field and not just say he's great, but he's proving he's great. Now, even then, when you have games in which the Ravens are not clicking at 100%, like example this past week against the Chiefs, the Ravens have found a way to win, and even though they only were able to muster 3 field goals in their 9-6 win, the bottom line is the defense stepped up, and they found a way to get the W, and that's what the National Football League is all about. Nitty-gritty wins, especially on the road. At number 2 and at number 1, honestly, you could flip-flop these teams in any given way, but at the moment, at number 2, I'm putting the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons right now are 3-0 in games decided by a touchdown or less. When you compare that to the last 3 games that were under those circumstances last year, they were 1-2. Now, a lot of people look at the Falcons and say, well, they shouldn't have beaten Carolina. Well, sometimes, as you can see in any championship season, there's always going to be 1 or 2 games that you probably escape with a win that you probably shouldn't have won. But the Falcons right now appear to be an absolute, pretty much the only lock for the playoffs, because they look at the teams in their division. Tampa, Carolina, New Orleans, all of them with 1 victory, while the Falcons already have 5, and they've got Oakland coming in, so that's almost a 6. And at number 1 in my power rankings, spoke about them earlier, I have the Houston Texans. The Texans have absolutely shown us what complete consistency looks like. They have a great running attack with Arian Foster. They have a great passing attack with Matt Schaub and great receivers like Andre Johnson, who arguably is not having a great season, but has already stated that he wants to try to rest up his legs, and so they're using other weapons, such as Ben Tate and Owen Daniels. And then you have a defense that right now is ranked in the top 2 or 3 in almost every category. Now, they did just take a hit on defense, losing Brian Cushing for the season to a torn ACL, and that is going to be a very devastating loss to this defense because you're not losing just his presence, but you're losing his leadership qualities as well. However, this team right now has been the most dominant force in the NFL by far. They have earned this number 1 ranking, and if they keep winning, they are going to stay there and could very well be the favorites to win the AFC and make it to the Super Bowl this season. They are, however, going to get some good tests over the next 2 weeks. They have Green Bay and Baltimore coming to town, 2 teams that right now are going to play each other that are in the power rankings right now. Houston's going to have to earn the right to keep this number 1 ranking, especially with Atlanta playing Oakland. You would think that Atlanta is going to get to 6-0 heading into their bye week. So now, can Houston do the same? The NFL just filled with storylines, a ton of season, and believe me, nobody is more excited than me to see how this plays out. When we come back, our final segment of this premiere episode, we're going to address, you know it, down in the South, college football, especially the Southeastern Conference. This is the Noel Mine. We'll be right back.